Let's take it away with a song from Sunday school a couple of years ago. You might remember it. God had a plan for Joseph. Joseph was his father's favorite son. Jacob loved him more than anyone. Joseph got a coat with colors bright. From his father it was quite a sight. God had a plan for Joseph, had it all along. God would make things better when they seemed all wrong. God had a plan for Joseph to help his family. God had a plan for Joseph. God has a plan for me. All the brothers started to get mad, and they took the coat that Joseph had. They forgot how people should behave when they sold their brother as a slave. God had a plan for Joseph, had it all along. God would make things better when they seemed all wrong. God had a plan for Joseph to help his family. God had a plan for Joseph. God has a plan for me. Joseph worked in Egypt for the king, telling all the meaning to a dream. 7 years would come when crops were good, followed by a time with little food. God had a plan for Joseph, had it all along. God would make things better when they seemed all wrong. God had a plan for Joseph to help his family. God had a plan for Joseph. God has a plan for me. When the 7 years of hunger came, Joseph's brothers came to beg for grain. They found Joseph second in command. He forgave them just as God had planned. God had a plan for Joseph, had it all along. God would make things better when they seemed all wrong. God had a plan for Joseph to help his family. God had a plan for Joseph. God has a plan for me.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you again. We had such a good time with you last week, and we hope you enjoy it today. Remember last week we discussed and we read the story of Joseph and his brothers, and how Joseph received a coat from his father, a beautiful coat. And remember how his brothers were very angry and very jealous. And because of that, they sold him as a slave and sent him to Egypt. Today we read what happens to Joseph while he's in Egypt. Thrown into prison. Over the years, Joseph served Potiphar, who is the king's helper, well. In time, he was put in charge of Potiphar's house and later all of his lands. But trouble was brewing. Potiphar's wife was displeased with Joseph and told her husband lies, pretending that Joseph had attacked her. Potiphar had Joseph thrown in prison. It just so happened that Pharaoh's butler and baker were also in the same jail. Joseph was given the job of serving these men. One night, both of them had worrying dreams. God can show us what dreams mean, said Joseph. Tell me what you saw. The butler told Joseph of a grapevine with 3 branches. He had squeezed the grape juice into Pharaoh's cup and given it to him to drink. The meaning is clear, said Joseph. In 3 days, you will be free and back at work. Please, put in a good word for me. Joseph turned to the baker. You say that in your dream you were carrying 3 baskets full of bread and pastries on your head, and birds flew down and pecked at them. Joseph looked and shook his head sadly. This dream is not good. In 3 days, Pharaoh will kill you. Joseph was right. 3 days later, the butler was back at work in Pharaoh's palace, and the baker was dead. As soon as the butler was released, he forgot about the promise he had made, and so Joseph remained in prison. We will continue this with Miss Gail a little later.
I'm glad we get to talk about the story about Joseph. And you know, when I hear that story, it makes me think about a roller coaster. There are lots of ups and downs in Joseph's story. Let's see if we can draw a roller coaster picture of what happens to Joseph. First, his dad gives him a special coat. I bet that made him feel really good and things went up for him. But then his brothers got jealous, which must have made him feel pretty bad. And then he had 2 dreams. Dreamed he was out in the field with his brothers and they were cutting wheat, and all of their sheaves or bunches of wheat bowed down in front of his. And then he had a dream that the sun and the moon and the stars bowed down before him. Those dreams made him feel pretty special, like maybe he was important. So things went up for Joseph, but his brothers and even his dad thought he was a little full of himself and that he shouldn't be bragging about dreams like that. And maybe things went down for Joseph. Then Joseph's dad sent him on a trip. His dad gave him a job to go find his brothers and check on them. Maybe that made Joseph feel good that his dad trusted him to do that. So he went off to check on his brothers, and his brothers saw him coming. And you remember what happened? They said, this is our chance to get rid of him. And they sold him into slavery, and Joseph ended up in Egypt. Who knows what's going to happen to him in Egypt? But when he got to Egypt, actually, in light of everything that could have happened, things went fairly well. He got bought by Potiphar, who was Pharaoh's captain of the guard. And Potiphar put him to work in his house, and Joseph did so well that Potiphar trusted him with everything. So things went up for Joseph. But then Potiphar's wife told some lies about Joseph, and Joseph got put in prison. Things went down for Joseph again. Oh gosh, so many ups and downs. Then when Joseph was in prison, 2 of the people had dreams, and they didn't understand their dreams. And Joseph was able to explain their dreams for them, and that probably made him feel pretty good. But the one person who got out of prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer or butler, forgot all about Joseph, and that must have made Joseph feel bad again. Lots of ups and downs. I'll tell you what, let's see if we can make our voices go up and down like the roller coaster that Joseph went through. We're going to start low and go up and down like this. Woo! 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 Can you do that with me? Here we go. We're going to warm our voices up with a roller coaster ride with Joseph. Here we go. Woo! 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 Very good. Now that we've talked about the roller coaster ride that Joseph was on in our story, let's sing the song, Everywhere I Go, the Lord is with me, or the Lord is near me. So last week we learned these words. Everywhere I go, the Lord is with me. When I call for help, I know God hears me. Never will I fear, for the Lord is near. Everywhere I go. Now today, let's learn the second verse. I'll sing, and then you can be my echo. In the dark of night, should things alarm me. Your turn. In the dark of night, should things alarm me. My turn. Ever in God's sight, no ill can harm me. Ever in God's sight, no ill can harm me. And my turn. I will be of cheer, for the Lord is near, everywhere I go. Your turn. I will be of cheer, for the Lord is near, everywhere I go. Thanks for singing with me, and now we'll do the whole song. Sing along as you watch the words and hear the music. If you want to again this week, pat the beat somewhere on your body. Thanks. Everywhere I go, the Lord is near me. When I call for help, I know God hears me. Never will I fear, for the Lord is near, everywhere I go. In the dark of night, should things alarm me, ever in God's sight, no ill can harm me. I will be of cheer, for the Lord is near, everywhere I go. God is with me day by day. God will be my strength and stay. From God's path I will not stray, but follow in God's way. In the coming days of joy or sadness, I will praise God's name with songs of gladness. For to me it's clear that the Lord is near, everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, the Lord is near me. When I call for help, I know God hears me. Never will I fear, for the Lord is near, everywhere I go.
Good morning, everybody. Miss Gail here. Miss Jane read the first part of our story for us today, and she talked about what Joseph did when he went to Egypt, that he worked for the Pharaoh's helper, but eventually, because of a misunderstanding, he got thrown into prison. While he was there, he helped two of the other Pharaoh's workers, with dreams that they had. And he told the Pharaoh's butler that he was going to get to go back to work, and would he please put in a good word for him. Well, of course, once the butler got out of jail, he totally forgot about the promise he made. So now Joseph is still sitting in jail. Let's find out what happens next. 2 years later, Pharaoh's sleep was disturbed by strange dreams. In one dream, he was standing in a field by the river Nile, when 7 plump, well-fed cows came out of the water and began to feed on the grass. These were followed by 7 thin, bony, skinny cows who ate up the first cows. All the wisest men in Egypt couldn't help Pharaoh to understand what his dream meant. But then the butler remembered that Joseph had mentioned him to Pharaoh. Joseph was instantly brought to the palace. "There will be 7 years of good harvest," explained Joseph. "After that, 7 years of bad harvests will follow. You must store food in the good years to help you get through the bad ones." Pharaoh could see that Joseph was a man of God. He was so impressed with him that he made Joseph his chief minister and gave him his own gold ring, a gold chain, and fine clothes as a mark of his new role. Once again, everything happened just as Joseph predicted. After Pharaoh, he was the most powerful man in Egypt, and because he had planned well, there was still plenty to eat when the bad years came. Okay, so Miss Jane and I have a little activity here that you could probably do at home, and this is basically to represent what Joseph told them about storing that grain in the good years so that it was available when the bad years came. We're going to pretend that this is the grain that grew in the good years, and those are the storage bins. And the idea is to get all this grain into storage. And let's see who can do it the fastest. Ready? Okay. Go. She's beaten. Uh-oh. Miss Jane gets to laugh at me.
We've heard a lot about Joseph today, about the ups and downs, and we've heard now at the end of our story, for today at least, that Joseph has had another up. He interpreted Pharaoh's dream and was put in charge of collecting grain for 7 years, so that when 7 years of hunger came, there would be grain for everyone to eat. So as we close up for this week, I have our Wonder Box here, and I wonder what's in it. I wonder what's in the box that will remind us of the story. Let's peek inside and see. Inside our Wonder Box is a little pillow. Wow! Huh! What about a pillow reminds you of our story? Let's see, we put our heads on pillows when we go to sleep at night. And when you're at sleep at night, sometimes what happens? That's right, you have dreams. There are lots of dreams in Joseph's story. There are the dreams he has at the beginning of the story when the brothers' sheaves of grain bow down to his, or when the sun, moon, and the star bow down to him. And it makes Joseph think that one day his family will bow down to him and think he's important. And then there are 2 more dreams when Joseph is in prison. The baker and the butler have dreams. Joseph interprets both of them, and one of them means that the butler gets to go back to be with Pharaoh. And then later, Pharaoh has 2 dreams, and the butler remembers that Joseph is good at figuring out what dreams mean. So Joseph comes and sees Pharaoh and tells him what the dreams mean. That there'll be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years when there's not enough food. And Pharaoh puts Joseph in charge of collecting up food for those 7 years when everybody's going to be hungry. So I guess the pillow's there to remind us of all the dreams that Joseph had. Our faith word for today, for last Sunday, and still for next Sunday, is this big word, reconciliation. You've got a coloring page for that. Maybe you can color it and bring it back in for us to see. Reconciliation means when two people disagree or don't get along with each other, or when they've hurt each other. Reconciliation is when they're able to come back together and get along again. So we hope at some point there'll be reconciliation between Joseph and his brothers. In order for reconciliation to happen, there's another big word. Do you remember from last week? We need forgiveness. We need to forgive each other, and we have a song about that. I forgive you, for God forgives me, then we'll be living in harmony. I forgive you, for God forgives me, then we'll be living in love. How about trying that with me? We'll do the sign language together first. I, point to yourself, forgive you, point out. Because God, we take our hand and bring it down like that. God forgives me. Then we'll be living, we bring our L fingers up for living, in harmony. We let our fingers come together. Rather than being separate, together in harmony. And then I forgive you, for God forgives me. Then we'll be living in love. How about singing that with me twice? Ready? I forgive you, for God forgives me. Then we'll be living in harmony. I forgive you, for God forgives me. Then we'll be living in love. I forgive you, for God forgives me. Then we'll be living in harmony. I forgive you, for God forgives me. Then we'll be living in love. Now, one last thing for today. You remember last week we did some breathing to help us remember how we can breathe in our anger and then blow it out with God's forgiveness? Something as simple as breathing can help us pray. Well, today we're going to take something else that's simple that you might have in your house. Some bubbles to blow. And we're going to pretend that our anger and the things that make us mad at each other are things that we can blow away just like bubbles. So you might want to take your bubbles and go. We're using our breath again this week too, aren't we? You might think about blowing a bubble, and you can pop that bubble with your finger, just like you can pop your anger, pop the things that make you treat one another badly with forgiveness. Dear God, help us to blow away our anger. Help us to forgive each other. Help us to enjoy reconciliation. Amen. See you next week. Thanks a lot for joining us for Sunday School.